is going on in their life, and what we can do best to sustain the business. While we were doing it, and if I just remember correctly, when 2005, Asia Pacific and rest of the world, severely affected by tsunami, and then there was a lot of loss of business, particularly if you remember in the southern Thailand, to the business sectors, hotels were completely washed away, closed. We thought that perhaps, this is once in a while. So we kept, we designed a couple of things, we kept quiet. 2011, again, back in Thailand, it completely changed the entire understanding how we see economic losses. And despite the fact that not many people lost their life in 2011 floods, but if you look at the economic losses, it was huge. And those who know that even today, after 9 years, more than 35% of the SME could not get back to the work. So they simply gone bankrupt to without a job. Then, starting of 2020, our life, our working, our shopping, our getting around completely changed. But now today, at least since we are sitting together, this is actually a great reminder how the life-changing global risk landscape that we are saying can affect our life, our business, livelihood, and the health. I know for sure that the return to what we were at the start of 2020 is not possible. Even when the lockdown everywhere is fully, the coronavirus will affect our life in many ways. Nonetheless, it actually provides a compelling case for risk-informed approach for business continuity as a basis for supply chain resilience. As you know, disaster risk has no boundaries. The losses from disaster has crippled economies, and I can cite one by one many examples, but not today, maybe later. But it really has killed the small businesses, the factories, and take away jobs. You look at around right now, the entire remedial measures against coronavirus is about pumping stimulus plans, pumping money, so that our factories continue to work with, of course, a lot of distances and all. With this background, I understand both businesses and private sector, if you remember, has been identified as the key stakeholder in these 3 post-2015 agenda for action. Of course, the Paris Agreement, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, we call it SDG, and more importantly for this meeting, our Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, where we have identified that without business resilience, we cannot achieve the overall sustainable growth. To do that, we identified business continuity plan as a roadmap that enables the businesses to prepare for disasters and to continue its operation under adverse situation. We also know by now, by all the different type of study that we have conducted, that the SMEs, and particularly the micro SMEs, do not have enough in-house technical expertise or access to expertise in their area to help them developing a business continuity or recovery plans. In order to support the SMEs in aligning their thinking towards risk-proofing their businesses, ADPC's I Prepare Business Facilities since 2001 has been responding to the various needs of the SMEs in enhancing their disaster resilience. At the ADPC and I Prepare Business, we educate and create awareness on the necessity and benefits of disaster risk reduction and building resilience. As I mentioned before, UNDRR has been instrumental in providing a platform for the private sector coming together and co-create business resilience tool. I'm thankful for Rika for developing this QRA tool. My colleague Ranit would walk you through this tool and steps that help you preparing for future disaster and emergencies. With this, I would like to stop, and I really would like to see that today's discussion really brings us a lot of the points which we can take in the short term, medium term, and long term. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Aslam. That's very wise words, I think, and I do agree. I mean, I think even though we can't go back to early 2020, nothing will ever really be the same. You know, this we can learn from this, and COVID-19 really does provide a compelling argument, I think, for risk, particularly multi-hazard risk. I'm not sure, pandemics have really been considered as part of people's risk in businesses and supply chains until now. So it's very important. Thank you very much, Aslam. It's very appreciated. I'd like now to move on to our panel. We have three esteemed panelists. I'll introduce our first panelist. It's Ms. Ai Win, who's the Director General of the Department of Small Medium Enterprise Development in the Ministry of Planning, Finance and Industry of the Government of Myanmar. And she has been a strong initiator of MSME development law in Myanmar, as well as a policymaker for SME policy, industrial policy, and industrial zone law. She's also a member of the World Union of Small and Medium Enterprises, serves as chair of the Job Creation and Manufacturing Sector Coordination Group, and is serving as a member of many other committees, and holds a Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering. My first question to you, Ms. Ai Win, is if you could, in your own words, please describe the policies and programs your organisation is implementing to help micro, small, medium enterprises to assess their risk that they might be exposed to. We understand that your organisation has been working with this somewhat, and we'd love to hear what if you could describe some of the policies and programs you've been doing to help MSEs understand their risk. Over to you.
Thank Mr. Tim. And so our department is the Ministry of Planning, Finance and Industry. Another Ministry of Planning and Finance and Industry. My department is the Directorate of Industrial Supervision and Inspection. So I have to do both. One is the supervision of the industrial enterprise, and another one is the promotion of the MSME development in our country. So now COVID-19 penalties what's happened in our country 2020 February. So our Ministry of Planning, Finance and Industry issued the COVID-19 Economic Relief Plan. This is a foundation for the facilitate Myanmar rapid economic recovery using the available policy instrument and to solve the existing program and coordination with the stakeholders. These CERP consists of the 7 goals. So goal number 1 is the improved macroeconomic environment through monetary stimulus. So this, according to this goal 1, so we reduce the lower interest rate, like the lower banks deposit and lending. So this policy solve the interest rates are lower than the previously by 3%. So now special low interest rate is 5.5% instead of the 8.5%. So according to the goal 2, so we have to easing the impact on investment and trade banking system. So according to this goal, so we provide the phase 1 special emergency low 100 billion jet, 100 billion jet, focusing to MSME, CMB, hotel and tourism, and MSME sector with the special rate 1%. So this is support to the MSME can solve the dire worker salary and working capital investment. And also we waive the 2% of withholding tax on export, and also we waive the annual fees or tourism license tourism sector. So also we with the specific cost tests and critical medical suppliers and products. So we do a lot of waive and reduction fees for the related sector. So our Directorate of Industrial Supervision and Inspection, we provide the capacity building for transformation to new normal style business in line Ministry of Health and Sport instruction. So now in our country, many representatives of the related departments, so they inspect the tire factory. So we support for tire capacity training program, how to amend tire working area. And also we emphasize the digital transformation because of the today is the digital technology is very important. So now we provide the digital literacy for a lot of information and communication. Also, we built the digital platform for tire training program, digital expo, and also the digital marketing and online consultation and digital marketing. Now, most of the SME, they lost the tire market. So now we provide them a lot of communication with the regional to regional and other international country. Now we upgrade our web portal to link the EU market and not only for the ASEAN country, but also for the EU market. And also we organize the online pitching for the innovation and sustainable development goals. So for our country, so most of the SME are traditional business. So now we provide the many direction capacity building of the human resources development and technology, modernized technology and sustainable development pool. And also we provide the financial literacy because of that they are very weak to get the financial loan. So we provide the many direction for their development. So now we face the COVID-19 pandemic. So they have more learning and more to get them more knowledge. And also now we support the knowledge development of COVID-19 safety for SME in line with the instruction of the Ministry of Health and Sport guideline. And so now so they have to understand that this disease, so which equipments are which arrangement should be amended in their related factories. So yeah, these are our supporting areas. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting. I really like the. I fully agree with your comment about knowledge development. I mean, it's we need that with the businesses. They need to understand what the problems are in order to understand their risk. So and you're doing a lot of good work there, I think, with digital literacy as well. And that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Ms. Iwin. I'd like to introduce our second panelist today, Mr. Vincent Rapisura, who is the president of the Social Enterprise Development Partnerships Incorporated group of social enterprises in the Philippines. And he's been teaching in Ateneo de Manila University in the past 17 years. And he promotes making markets work for the poor. He has received awards from Ernst & Young, PricewaterhouseCoopers, National Confederation of Cooperatives, and as well, of course, from the Ateneo de Manila University, among many others. We're very happy to have you join us today, sir, and I'm glad you're safe, as well as your family with the recent typhoons. And my first question today for you is if you could please describe your organization's experiences in assessing the risk businesses might be exposed to, and what are the challenges in conducting these risk assessments?
Yeah, so thank you, Tim, and thank you for inviting me in this webinar. So SEDPI is a training, research, and consulting organization, and we also provide financing to mostly nano enterprises. So we call them nano enterprises because we feel that there's a different sector catering to the poorer segment compared to the micro, small, and medium enterprises. But the way that we do assessments for risk here for our organization, which is classified as a medium enterprise, we do internal and external assessments. So the internal assessment would involve institutional, financial, and operational risks, taking a look at our internal processes. So with this, we use what we call the business cycle approach, where we identify risks at the head office level, down to the branches, and then going down to the clients that we serve, and then tracing these operations back up to the head office again. We also do a lot of financial modeling, and of course, we do planning and controls and audits for the internal risks. For the external risks, which usually involve, of course, calamities and disasters, and we all know that the Philippines is very vulnerable to disasters. So for assessing the risks involved in this, we do what we call participatory rapid appraisals, where we talk to our community members and ask them about vulnerabilities that they face. And we also ask them about a time series of calamities that they have experienced in the past. So right now, actually in the past 16 years that we have existed, we have done time series of calamities whenever we open branches outside of within the archipelago. And what this means is we are assessing the types of calamities that communities have experienced in the past 10 years, so that we have an idea of what kinds of disasters or calamities our communities are exposed to, and we can then design products and services towards that. And the last one is also we take a look at the coping mechanisms of these nano enterprises that we serve. Just to give you an idea why we separate nano enterprises from MSMEs. Micro enterprises, which is the first M in the MSME framework, would have an asset size of about $60,000 US. But the market that we serve, and I'd say about 90% of all enterprises here in the Philippines belong to the nano enterprise category, which is just about 200 to 300 US in terms of working capital that's revolving. So there's a huge discrepancy from 300 US to 60,000 US of nano enterprises versus micro enterprises. And I think that's where the challenge arises in terms of risk management, assessing them and responding to this. So one of the risks that we find is lack of funding and skills in risk assessment. When we compare, even for micro enterprises themselves, they lack the funding and the necessary skills to do risk assessment themselves. What more for the nano enterprises who have their livelihoods at stake and their source of daily needs at stake. No? And then we also see that there's a lack of benchmarks because most of the literature and the tools that we see even outside of the Philippines is really focused on medium and large enterprises. I'd say even for small enterprises, but for micro and nano enterprises, we feel that there's a lack of tools and benchmarks that we could take a look at to make a risk assessment and risk response effective. So those are the two main challenges that I see in terms of a risk assessment for the Philippines, for the Philippine experience. So that's lack of funding and skills, and on the other hand would be the benchmarks and tools are largely designed for small, medium, and large enterprises. But for micro and nano enterprises, we still lack tools and benchmarks for these.
I fully agree. Thank you so much for that really informed answer. And I agree. The nano enterprises clearly are at risk, and they need to be helped. I think they obviously lack funding and the tools. Most tools I've seen are designed for small or medium enterprises or larger ones, but trying to reach that nano level that you're referring to as well is quite a challenge, I think. And I think most tools I've seen are designed also from agencies that speak English, and they're not necessarily translated into the local language.
Right.
And the lower you get, the less likely English is spoken very well. So I think that's very important. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. On to our third panelist. I would just like to introduce for today is Brigadier BK Khanna, who is currently the CEO of Arise India Network here with UNDRR, and a senior consultant in disaster management, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, as it's called. He has a very long, distinguished career in the Indian Army and Border Security Force for over 35 years, where he was awarded 8 times for bravery and exceptional service. But more importantly, he's the founder of the Indian National Disaster Management Authority and has written over 357 articles on security and disaster management related issues, and 3 books on disaster management and climate change, which I have not read yet. But he has a Master of Science in Psychology, a PhD in Terrorism, a Doctor of Literature in Disaster Management, and an MBA in International Trade. So I'm not sure how you find time to do all your work, sir, with all your study. But my first question to you, sir, is what are the particular needs of MSMEs in terms of building their resilience, and specifically, in view of conducting risk assessments? I mean, and also, I suppose, if I can throw into there, what role do business associations such as yours, play in addressing or providing necessary support to address these needs? If I can hand over to you now, Brigadier. Thanks.
Thank you, Tim. I think firstly, I'd like to thank UNDRR for inviting me to be a panelist here. And secondly, of course, Tim, I'll send you those 3 books, okay, for your study. Okay, in fact, those 2-3 points which you have asked me, and let me cover them one by one. In India, of course, we have got about 65 million MSMEs. And the survey by the All India Manufacturers Organization, which conducted in 46,525 respondents, they concluded that the 35% of the MSMEs and the 37% of the self-employed are beyond recovery, and 32% said that they will be able to recover only after 6 months and beyond, because of what the COVID-19 has affected them. And a traveler study, of course, on the other hand, I also found out that 40% of the small businesses are operating without any BCP. Of course, yet about 95% indicated that they have prepared the BCP as such. COVID-19, beside that, also has disrupted the business activities on which the local population around the industrial hubs depend, affecting their livelihood as well as the recovery. While, of course, the government has announced some schemes, including about 3 lakh crore rupees collateral-free loan to provide the immediate relief to the sector. Pandemic has also made these companies, of course, that they have also to need look into insight also to bring reforms within their own organization and make the MSMEs more resilient to the business shocks. I would also like to cover what we have. Some of those the MSMEs, they have the BCPs also, but still they are failing. There are about 5-6 points there. The SMEs had not catered for this prolonged the fallout of such a high contagious epidemic. Of course, initially for lockdown here in India, they were quite strict also. There was no activity whatsoever anywhere. Secondly, the migrant and the contract as well as the daily wages, they were left without any job and with a bleak future. Thirdly, the business remained closed for a considerable number of days due to the strictly implemented lockdown, which I said. Then those who had taken loan from the banks as well as the financial institutions, they were doubly worried as interest rate had not been, they had to pay the interest loan. They were not waived off, but only postponed. And the weekend outings to the sign flexes, entertainment places, they were all closed. The people venture out only for essential purchases. What happened then? That the demand for the consumers got reduced. There was, in fact, a difference. The supply was not there, even for the supply of the essential activities, etc., and it kept on fluctuating. Hence, of course, there was a reduced cash flow. When the unlock started, the manufacturing units they found the skilled as well as the unskilled manpower shortage was there. The tightrope on the restoration of the production and keeping their employees safe, that was one of the reasons, of course, they were failing in. With no and the meager income, loan, EMI payment overdue, the salary of the workers, payment for the raw material, all this overrun and put many of these industries, especially the MSMEs, to put their shutters down. Now, need for this risk assessment, it was realized by them, of course, was like earlier also, but it has taught them a great lesson. They realized that they need to safeguard the enterprises against the perceived disasters, not only the natural as well as the man-made, but also the cyber attack. This is another thing, because most of the things we are doing it on the communications only. And even a more serious, of course, the biological disaster, which we had not catered for much. And they had to be part of their risk assessment, which are not there. Hackers are likely to love or to go for those organizations that are digitally not ready as yet. Secondly, of course, the liquidity and the funding. World Bank has, of course, they predicted that the MSME segment faces the largest credit gap across the countries, and in India, it is one of the largest. We know COVID-19 has forced many MSMEs to close, and many others are on the verge of the shutdown. Third, of course, risk is the succession plan. India has, as I said earlier, 65 million MSMEs, of which 30 to 40% are led by the owners, who are now moving towards the retirement stage. Do these companies have a legacy plan? It's an important question to ask. Actually, the reputation management, of course, in the wake of this pandemic, when everyone is looking at India, reputation is an important from the market as well as the digital standpoint of view, so as to attract the customers from the different regions. And lastly, the risk management has greater returns on investment. Adopting risk management formally will also increase the MSMEs to their chances of raising the capitals. Banks and investors will, it will be easier for them to convince them if the MSMEs, they can show a robust enterprise risk framework within their organization. I have got 6 tips for the MSMEs. Firstly, the development, of course, the risk culture, which should include the employees' health too. Secondly, develop a strong risk appetite. The measures, the quantum of risk you as MSMEs are willing to take. Thirdly, develop a risk escalation matrix. Just a minute. From the bottom of your organization till the top of the board, basically to assess how are the risks going to get escalated. Fourthly, of course, develop the strong risk identification strategy, which means involve all the employees to identify the possible risks. Fifthly, of course, the communication, risk identification, and the other reports should be formally presented on a quarterly basis to the board. And lastly, the physical distancing strategy, which is likely to stand, of course, wherever we have got the activity which are require a close interaction between the workers, etc., that has to be spaced up and has to be taken care of it. And the other question is, what is the role of Arise India Wiki, which you have done it? There are 3-4 things which you have done it. The number of other, but I will only cover up 3 or 4 points only. We are helping the industrial units in identifying their risks by conducting the conferences on the national as well as the regional level. We conduct on an average, before even the COVID-19, also 4 to 6 conferences here in a regional and 1 to the national level. We have got a CITM board, that is the Conference on the Industrial Disaster Management Board, which is here. And so far we have conducted about 40 conferences, and each conferences is also followed by mock exercise in most accident hazard unit which is nearby. On the on-site plan, I mean, what has resulted, this is the on-site plan of all the MES industries, of course, has been finalized. Now the emphasis is on the MSMEs. Secondly, of course, the FICCI also hold the annual survey in association with the Pinkerton. 12 identified risks have been done, that is from the business point of view, and they have been prioritized. The last one, of course, we had the first risk was there on the information and the cyber security. That was number one. And the intellectual property as the third was number two. Natural disasters were number three, and as well as the terrorism was at number four. Next one is that we also conducted a social hackathon along with RICA and the universities from the India as well as Japan to find the innovative way how we get the solution for the problem for these MSMEs. And we have identified six innovation which are in fact corresponding to the 6 SDGs themes also. We have circulated them to all our the members to make a business opportunity out of that one. And lastly, of course, the Japan Bosai platform as well as the Arise India, we also organized a joint webinar last month, not last month, in September, and which was basically a business-oriented one, and it was a great success. And we are going to continue with this in the coming days also. This is what we have done from the that's all. Over to you, Tim, please.
Thank you so much, Brigadier Khan. I mean, there's a lot of really valuable information in that. It's we've taken note of it all, and I'm glad we're recording. It's just get all of your thoughts. And it's interesting to see that even with a BCP, businesses are still failing. And I note that there was also a similar survey done in the Philippines by one of our other UN agencies that showed that something like 50% of the businesses that actually had a BCP found that it was inadequate to deal with COVID-19 completely. And it's most likely because it failed to take into consideration pandemics. And they were just targeting natural hazards, you know, the usual suspects like floods and typhoons and things. So that's really interesting. Thank you so much, sir. That's wonderful. I think in the interest of time, because we only have about just over a little bit 20 minutes left, what we might do is we might thank our panelists, and if we have time at the end of this, we'll go back to some more questions. But I think it's important that we allow Ranit, our colleague, to give a quick demonstration of the QRE tool, which is aimed to help MSMEs with identifying their risk and understanding what that is. Ranit, over.
Thank you, Tim, and hopefully the slides are visible to everyone.
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
Very good morning to everyone joining today for this webinar, and a big thanks to UNDRR for this opportunity. I will take you through this quick risk estimation tool. And I guess it links to what the earlier panelists have expressed in their talk. That possibly we are looking at an unprecedented event, and we are also caught unaware that what should be the kind of steps or actions that we need to take. And if we are taking already, I'm sure many of us already have reacted to the initial kind of shock or impact, but we don't know whether those actions are actually helping us in mitigating the risk, or are we increasing the risk. So I'll try to take you through this process of how we kind of conceptualize this quick risk estimation tool, and also how you can use it for your own benefit, and how you can also for propagate it within your network for others' benefit as well. So with that, my presentation will have these 3 parts mainly: the relevance of the quick risk estimation tool, the concept behind the QRE tool development, and how you can use the QRE tool. So coming to the first part, as I guess this has been already covered by the panelists earlier, that this pandemic has a huge impact on the economy, and if we consider the MSMEs in most of the countries make up for a considerable amount of the private sector, I guess the impact mostly lies with this micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, and also for certain countries, I guess also the nano enterprises. So that's a diversity that we have with this sector specifically, that the terminologies change, the number of and with terminologies, I guess there are two specific factors which we assign while defining nano, micro, or small enterprises, is the investment and the labor force who are involved in it. But it keeps on changing from country to country, and I guess to capture that essence is very important, to know how the regional risk is, how the national risk is, and how the local risk are playing out. And again, among the MSMEs, or if I say NMSMEs, including the nano, possibly the nano and micro and small enterprises are not so much into BCP, business continuity plans. Possibly for them it's not also feasible to make business continuity plan, or there might be other reasons. The third is, again, that has been stressed, is not all BCPs had pandemic risk as part of it. So for enterprises who have made BCPs, possibly this was again a new risk which has come up. And lastly, there's a lot of data gap. We don't know what exactly is happening. The risk is a very dynamic kind of thing, which keeps on changing. And it's just not COVID which is acting alone. Possibly, if you look at this pandemic situation, we might be like, as the Philippines had recently Typhoon Goni, India had a few typhoons, other countries also are facing different kind of other natural hazards. So we are in midst of kind of pandemic, but along with it we have other natural hazards happening. So it's a composite risk, and that is changing. So we need to counter that while we kind of take action to manage that risk. And again, when we talk about the approach, possibly most of the approaches are reactive approach. We react to a disaster, but can it be more proactive when we try to kind of see that what are the possible risks and what can we do, so that we at least what has happened, but in future we can reduce it. That's one. The second is support policy decision making through evidences. Unless we know what is the ground reality, if we decide or if we make policies, possibly it might work, it might not work. To increase the chances of effective policy making, it's very important that we generate ground evidences. And as other panelists also have stressed, that possibly the informal businesses, the data set that lies with the informal businesses is not accessible even for the government. And this is also my experience when I was working in Nepal after the earthquake, that there was not enough data to know what exactly is happening at the ground. And third, and more important, is how you communicate the risk to the wider audience. Do you keep it the risk, like what risk kind of is getting generated? Do you keep it to a small audience? Do you keep it to a small group? Or is there a way to propagate it? Is there a way to make people aware that there's this kind of risk and you need to take action? I think that ownership needs to be created within people where the risk lies. So with that, what we conceptualized is this QRE tool, which you have seen in the earlier phase, but we kind of also considered in our design that the tool which should come in should be easy to use, should be scientific, so that the findings are validated. There is data privacy, because that's a big issue, that we do not kind of collect data which people might not be willing to share, and there might be issues of privacy, personal data sharing, and other stuff. And also this tool which we are trying to develop can be adaptable. We are now looking at pandemic, but possibly a year down the line, can it be also looking at other hazards or disasters that might happen? And how can we scale it up? Can we include other hazards? How can we scale it up for other regions? Is it a very country specific, or can it be for a region specific approach that can be taken up? So with that, we kind of came up with a framework, and I think this has been already shared by Mr. Rapisura earlier, that there are two factors when we consider risk in a business or enterprise. One is the internal risk, which possibly a business can manage through changing their own operational or other organizational setup. But there is an external risk, which possibly an individual organization might have very less amount of control. So for this risk assessment tool, what we decided is we need to combine both and see if we can create a composite index of the external risk as well as the internal risk, so that we know that overall risk. So overall risk is basically a function of your internal as well as the external risk coming together. So with that in mind, what we did is we came up with a tool which would have set of questions. Those questions, we actually, when we are developing this tool, we came across many of such assessment tool. And risk assessment is very much an important component of business continuity plan, but that's possibly something which is more extensive and needs a kind of bit of expertise to do it. But here, when we are targeting say the nano enterprises, micro enterprises, or small enterprises mainly, we are looking at a group of people who won't have too much of time in making business continuity plans or doing risk assessment, filling up a huge form. It should be something which they can be happily doing. It is easy for them to understand, and also it takes them through this journey of knowing their risk. So with that, we kind of looked at 22 questions, which covers this whole gamut of 7 parameters, which I have shared earlier, of internal and external risk. Based on that, we kind of had a weighted mean approach where we could put different weightage for each of the questions and each of the answers. Based on this, what we do is we come up with a risk level, which categorizes where does the enterprise risk lie, and based on that risk we can create very specific advisories for which are the areas which you need to focus immediately, or the areas of concern. So once we know that these are possibly the areas of concern, we can take more focused action to mitigate those risks. And along with it, what we also do at the back end is create a database which could be used for looking at maybe the micro scale or the sub-national scale or national scale, or even the regional scale, that how this pandemic is playing out in the MSME sector. We also are using the GPS location, which I'll come later on, that to see that how it kind of this risk is located in different micro or regional scale. And as of now, this tool is multilingual, but as of now we have English and Spanish, but we are looking at how to translate it more including more languages, so that it can be easily accessible in different countries. So coming to the important part, how to use this tool, what are the components, and what are the steps that you need to take. So the first is, this tool you can access from your laptop, from your desktop, from your mobile, from your tablet. It's accessible from very easily from all of these. You just need to go to www.businessqre.net, and this tool is targeting business owners or the managerial staffs of nano, micro, small business, and also mid businesses, and possibly someone who have already made a business continuity plan, like very strict business continuity plan. They might find that this is not possibly fitting into their idea of business continuity plan, and it actually doesn't, it's not meant to fit into it, because this is a situation which has not yet been thought of, and we are trying to use a more kind of a dynamic setup to see that if we can quickly estimate it. And that's the main idea behind developing this tool. Once you log in, kind of go into it, you will see, you will click on the about the tool, take me to the tool page, kind of button, and it takes you to this page, which is where they ask you for the login. And there are two options: either you can sign up, or you can go as guest. You can go with guest login. I would say that signing up is better, because what we have done with sign up is, if you sign up, it sends you a reminder after every month, like each month it sends you a reminder that you need to take the risk estimation tool, through which you can know that if your risk is changing based on the actions that you have taken. And also you can have access to the dashboard anytime. But if you sign in as a guest, possibly it's a one-time thing. So I would encourage people who are listening, and also people who are going to communicate later on, to go for as kind of for sign up, or you can use your Google already established Google email sign up pages for accessing this. You come to a disclaimer page, which shows that what are the general statements, what are the disclaimers for this, why we are doing it, so that you know the background of this. And once you click OK, you move into this page, which shows you, I'll just take you through this. So we also consider that there might be people who would need audio assistance. So there is this on the top, there is this tab. If you click on it, it actually reads out the questions, and people who might need audio assistance can actually take this option. The main section here in the center, you can see. So you on the top in the blue bar, you have the question coming, and then you have drop-down menus, or also in some of the questions there are multiple choice answers. So you can choose your answers from here. And as you progress, you can see your progress on the progress bar here. So that's in the green. And you can see how many questions you are still left, or possibly what is your progress and how much more you need to go further. And then you have the previous, if you want to go back and change your answer, you have this previous button, and then for going to the next one, you have the next button here. And also we realize that many people are actually working nowadays from home, and it's really, really kind of, I would say, a lot of pressure that like everyone is sitting at on the chair, and so it might be a bit kind of tedious for people to focus so much. So we also introduced this animation on the top. As you progress, you would actually can look at different yoga postures that you can do while you are sitting on the chair. So that gives you kind of a motivation to go to the end and complete this risk assessment. And once you submit the form, what you see is the result dashboard. Say, for example, when I took it, so my risk is low as a business organization. My business organization risk is low. So it calculates business risk and shows where your enterprise business risk lies. But along with it, you see another pane here, which shows across the 7 parameters that we have considered. It shows where does your risk lie. So say, for example, the first one is human resource, second is operation, third is finance, fourth is technology and innovation. So these are mostly the internal risk. And how does your organization fare in all these parameters? Also, along with it, you can see if there are government policies, and if that is actually helping your organization, it is not helping, how the market forces are helping, and external risk in terms of natural hazards, which might actually compound the risk. So along these 7 parameters, you can see where your risk lie. And also, if you focus here, you can see that there are 2 lines. One is the deep navy blue line, which says your score, which is the present score. But also, when you take it next time, it plots your last score against the present one, which gives you an idea that how have you progressed in mitigating your risk based on your last score and the actions that you have taken. So that's very important. It's a progression and it's a dynamic process. And as many times as you take it, it will start keep you keep plotting the last score and how it is changing. The third pane here shows the locational risk, and you can see that it shows the overall global map, which plots for each country, but also at the local scale, you can see around this area, possibly this is in Pune in India, in the western part, that locally when companies have taken this risk assessment tool, it populates that area, and that becomes a very important tool for decision makers to see that, okay, possibly this area has higher risk within the region, and we can target that region for more kind of effective policy making. And then the pane here on the right hand side, you can see it kind of gives you advices based on the risk. So it lists out your risk. Then this is a more dynamic one based on the 7 parameters. It will automatically say that which are those components where your risk is high. So we have already taken a cutoff of 60%. So if your risk is higher than 60%, it will automatically list out. It also links to what earlier Mr. Parvez has said, the business continuity and recovery planning toolkit, which UNDRR and ADPC has developed. So if someone is interested to develop their own business continuity plan, they can click here and look at that toolkit. And also they can link to the e-learning orientation course, which is available from UNDRR. So it becomes kind of a comprehensive approach for mitigating your risk. And it's not just one time, because as I understand, many a times the business continuity exercise is done by experts from the agencies, and this is something which you can do very easily on your own, and it's dynamic, so you can keep repeating it, and it's there in your hand to manage your own business. I guess that's the important part here, is to know your risk. And I think with Brigadier Khanna's long experience in the army, he would agree that knowing the risk is half the battle won, and possibly the next phase would be to take action after you know the risk. And then some additional details of this is, once you finish it, you can also give feedback so that we know we can better this tool, because it's that's very important. And if you want to retake this survey, you can click on this last page, which comes on the dashboard, retake survey, and you can go back to the first and retake the survey. So these are just for your information. And if you want to know and read more about it, you can have this about the tool here. Sorry, this pointer is wrong, but it's about the tool here, and you can read more about it. There's a page on what has gone, what's the concept, what are the other reference materials that we have referred while developing this tool, and what kind of factors have been taken under each of the parameters. So this is for people who are more interested in understanding the development of the tool. So with that, I thank you all and thank the organizers for this opportunity. And it was a teamwork, so I have acknowledged all the members who have been also engaged in developing this tool. So thank you, and over to your team.
Okay, thanks very much, Ranit. That's really good. It's very comprehensive. And I think the idea of this tool is really, as Ranit was saying, is that, trying to reach micro, small, medium enterprises to understand their risk to COVID-19 and other hazards. Sorry, and if only by understanding the risk that you can actually do something about it. As we've heard, a lot of businesses and enterprises have BCPs, but they found the BCPs were not adequate in dealing with COVID-19. And a lot of that is because many of the businesses have not actually addressed the full impacts of pandemics as a hazard in their risk assessment to their business. And as a result, it hasn't been really incorporated into their mitigation and response strategies. So, I think this is really informative, and it's simple to use. We've had a lot of positive feedback so far from small businesses saying that it's very easy to use. Even though it's only in English and Spanish at the moment, we're hoping to get it translated into other languages, and we're also trying to assist people with hearing and visual impairments through the audio. And I think hopefully through our partners, this will be a tool that can help micro and nano small businesses understand what their risks are, particularly to COVID-19, given that the pandemic isn't really going away. I think it's not too late to assess your risk and update your BCP, and actually use this to help inform how you're tracking in terms of understanding your risk. Before we close, I'd like to move back to our panel and ask them one last question that we've received. I'll ask all three of them the same question, which would be good to hear from all their perspectives, which is, so to our three esteemed panelists, from your experience, how can smaller businesses, particularly micro enterprises, actually be encouraged or incentivized in some way to conduct risk assessments, particularly using tools such as this QRE that we've just been shown here? I mean, as we know, most micro businesses, they're there to provide a service, sell coffee or do something. How do we actually, actually getting them to do a risk assessment can be quite difficult because they don't have the time or the resources or the capacity. From your experiences, what would be suggestions on how we could incentivize nano and micro small enterprises to use these tools and to do risk assessments? So I'll just open question to our three panelists before we close. Mr. Rapisura, did you want to?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, I think to incentivize micro and nano enterprises to adopt the tool, I think we have to first demonstrate that the tool works, because most of the micro and nano enterprises that I work with tactile proofs, so to speak. They need to see that the tool is working, and with this, there needs to be a lot of capacity building that needs to be done, no? Because to start with, micro enterprises themselves have weak internal processes, and therefore they have also high internal risks to begin with compared to medium and large corporations. So they are more vulnerable. So in terms of also of knowledge management, I think there should be a move towards that, to separate nano and micro enterprise interventions to small, medium enterprises, because there's really a huge difference between the behavior and profile of these enterprises. Of course, support is also needed from the government, from the private sector, particularly the medium and large corporations who have suppliers that are nano or micro enterprises, or that have clients that are micro and nano enterprises. I think a part of the budget of this medium and large corporation working with these types of enterprises should be for establishing quick assessment tools and even response tools during emergencies and disasters.
Thanks, it's really well informed. Thank you.
In fact, Tim,
yes.
I would also like to comment.
Yes,
and
please.
This QRE tool we have in fact circulated firstly, in fact, in all our Arise India members. Not only that, but also our these FIT members. I mean, there are a 250,000 members are there. and so they have all been distributed this. And the only thing is, of course, how are we going to, in fact, as Ranjit was also mentioning about it, to use it in different. So one of the requests which has come in there that they would like to, because in fact most of these micro these industries here in India basically are, in fact, I mean, they are not very familiar with English, etc. So it is in a local language like in Hindi, etc. would be much better this thing. So that, of course, we should be able to get it done early. It will be very good. It will be very good for that only. Otherwise, whenever we are conducting the various workshops, or whenever we are conducting various other conferences, etc., we make sure that this particular tool is also, in fact, taken care of it and advertised. And if it is also available, we have him also on the as a panelist, so that he can describe it in a detail. But yes, this particular tool is very, very important. Is very good also. And especially, of course, seeing the follow-up which takes place after every particular disaster, especially disaster like the COVID-19, etc. So we will make all efforts from our side, that is from the FICCI side, to popularize it here, so that, of course, as far as the losses are concerned, they are much reduced as such. And of course, as we say, some of the we are able to popularize these tickets, the others will also get to know about it, and slowly, of course, it will catch on. In fact, in India, we can say there it is like an elephant. You have to move a little forward. Once the element has moved forward, then of course very difficult to stop it also. So that movement is the one we are taking it, and let us hope it is done. Starts up quickly, and then of course you will see there, as far as India is concerned, this tool will be very, very popular. Over to you, Tim.
No, thank you very much. No, I agree, and thank you very much also for indicating that you've been, publicising the tool. And I think one of our next steps, I think, will definitely be to translate this into the local languages and have that explained more. I think and also I fully agree that we need to demonstrate that the tool that it actually works, and then people will be convinced to use it. So that's very important. So there's a lot of different factors there in terms of capacity building, etc. Do any other panelists, Ms. Iwin, did you want to have any closing thoughts or respond to the question on incentivizing businesses in Myanmar? No. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation and more information. So I'm very pleased to hear. So I think according to my experience, so work cycle should be smooth and more circulate, including the occupational safety and also the owner management. So update management or owner is very important, and they have to understand the existing risk in the internet and external. So I think this tool is very often for the nano and micro and small, because this nano, micro, and small business are very different. In our country, many micro and small business, their working area is very limited. So they have to change their working area. So very difficult to follow their social distancing. So, and also, so they have to understand the use their equipment and working area for the social distancing. So they have to monitoring their working area. So this two is there very effective for supporting for their amendment and recycling. And so now another one is there. So this SME business, they have to change their working area, not only for their working area, but also the more communication and more information to get the new market, because of now they lost their existing market. So they have to use the digital and online and to get the communication and new market. And also the another one is there. So supply chain is very important in the working area, and also the connection with the other countries. So supply chain. So government should be support the supply chain of effective performance, and so more sufficient for the communication. So this is my comments. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. No, that's, I fully agree, and I think, you know, the access of new markets to be explored is a real issue. I mean, that really needs to be taken into consideration for you know, the risks to businesses. If they don't have access to those new markets, particularly online, then I think it's a real risk for their business to potentially fail if they cannot access new markets. And I think the other points you made are definitely very valid. I mean, they need to understand the areas and the space with which they're working in, social distancing, etc. On that note, we've gone a little bit over time, but what I'll do is I'd like to thank everyone very much for today. I mean, and our esteemed panelists, and and Azam for his opening speech, and Ranit for your excellent description of the QRE tool. We've placed the link to the tool in the chat box there. I mean, overall, we've heard a lot of really good feedback and information here today from our panelists, and I think particularly from how governments such as Myanmar are working closely with MSMEs to support them. I think that's really important. I mean, the government plays a really key role when supporting the private sector. I mean, even if it's as simple as reducing interest rates, something like that can really help, I think, and helping them understand what their risks are and helping increase their capacity. I think that's really important. I think, you know, we need to tailor our tools for all levels of businesses. I mean, we particularly heard today about the nano businesses. I think that's been a really important learning aspect for all of us here. And that there are significant challenges in working with all those different levels. In particular, I do like to comment that you know, by supporting large businesses, we're also, you know, with their supply chains, etc., we're also supporting the micro and small businesses who work with them as well. And in fact, we've seen some good examples of large businesses actually supporting their own supply chain by training and doing risk assessments with this micro and small businesses that they work with through their supply chain. I think it's terrific. We've heard from the chamber how important the chambers of commerce are, and NGOs in you know, playing such a central role in helping businesses understand what their risks are and developing you know, tools and being innovative, I think, in making sure that businesses can actually access appropriate tools to understanding their risks. But more importantly, that a BCP, you know, must consider all risks, as we've heard from many people today. I think it's really important, as we've heard, that many, you know, businesses have BCPs in the region, and they just were not very effective in managing with COVID-19. And I think, you know, what we really need to do is focus on how important it is to make sure that risk assessments are multi-risk approach, they have a multi-risk approach, and that they actually incorporate these into their BCP. On that note, I'd like to thank everyone again, and I'd like to end the webinar here. If we have future ones, we will advertise them. And if you have any questions about the QRE tool itself, it's available online, and there is a place there there's an email address on the QRE tool that you can email and ask questions, or if you have any technical difficulties. But we would like to have your feedback on the usefulness of the tool and how it can be improved. And if any partners are willing to assist us with translating it into a local language, we are more than welcome to work with you on that. On that note, I'd like to say thanks very much to our partners and to our esteemed panelists, and Ranit, who's taught us so much today in the video, and to all of you for giving us a little bit more of your time today by allowing us to go a little bit extra over time by 15 minutes. And I wish you all a very happy day, and keep safe. And please do share the link with your partners and your colleagues, and we welcome any feedback we can. On that note, thank you very much, and I'll leave the webinar now. Thank you very much.